What is up, most distinguished patrons of this channel? Today I have a treat for you, and I bought something that doesn't really classify as something that I shouldn't be buying, but more or less something I needed. But it's something pretty odd that I bet a lot of you probably have never seen, or maybe you've seen and you have no idea why it looks the way it does. So with that said, let's get this sucker opened and see what's inside. I hope it's not damaged. These things are not necessarily the beefiest, least fragile items. Oh boy, we got peanuts in here. Oh man, just what I want floating around the welding shop. I wonder what that is. Interesting. Boy, that's pretty weird looking. Well, let me clean this crap up and let's take a look at it. So this is a very purpose-built welding hood, and probably one of the most unconventional ones that you've ever seen, is my guess. And there's a lot of really cool features about these that just make a specific task of welding pipe easier. So let's go through those and look at them. So this particular model, which this one's made by Wendy's Pancake Shields out of Missouri, which I have no affiliation with. I paid my own money to buy this. This one is a right-handed model. You can tell if it's right hand or left hand, because if it's a right hand, this side shield is on the left. If it's a left hand, the side shield's on the right. And as you can see, there is no other side shield on the opposite side, which to a lot of you is probably a weird concept, because, well, first off, why do you have this here? And second off, why do you not have one on both sides? And the answer is pretty simple. This is a purpose-built hood for welding pipe out in the field, and therefore the design of it and the way that it's set up is specifically for that. And one of the things when you weld pipe, be it down in a ditch or up in the air, that's pretty common, is you gotta weld on the bottom of the pipe and then progress up. Or if you're doing, say, a root pass with 60-10, you're gonna be welding downhill possibly. And the way your head is positioned, if you're right-handed, is something like this. And the purpose of the side shield is so that all them sparks that would be getting into your ear canal, making a lot of noise and pain that you don't want to deal with, this will protect your ears. So those sparks will roll off and behind your head, which that's an awesome feature. And because most pipeliners, if they're, say, right-handed, you're going to typically weld with your right ear down. This works. Now, they do make these with side shields on both sides, and obviously not all pipeline welders use these, but it works good for that specific use. Now, as far as why this has kind of this flat face to it, I think a lot of that, again, has to do with the fact that sparks that hit this will just hit it and roll off, which is a huge benefit. With some of the hoods out there, you could wind up with sparks on the eye box and it could end up melting through it, etc. So I believe, and don't quote me on it, but the weird round flat face front is just to aid in sparks falling clean off of this and not sticking to anything. Now, probably the most unusual aspect of this is what they call the balsa wood or the wood eye box, which that is what this is. And as you can see, this looks probably nothing like any welding hood you have or have used. And there's very good reason for this. And you, even if you don't weld pipe, might appreciate or find use in this. And that is, this blocks out backlight. So this functions more or less like a set of goggles. Therefore, you can weld with full sun behind you and it does not reflect off of the shade, the lens that you have inside, so you can flat out see better. And that's something that is unique to this hood. I mean, very few hoods actually block out backlight. If you had like a powered air purifying respirator or a face mask that is a goggle setup, those do as well. But for actual welding hoods that are full size, that protect your face and your ears pretty good, this is probably the only option for that. Now, the interesting thing about this has to be custom fit to your face, and I found it kind of humorous. They basically gave you 80 grit sandpaper so you can do it yourself, but it actually takes a fair amount of work to get this to fit your dome just right and not break your nose. And I already tried to test fit this, and I'll tell you what, this is not going to fit the way it is out of the box, and I didn't expect it to. So later, after this video is over, I'm going to sit here, we'll drink in a ginger beer and sand all this down to where it fits my face perfectly. And that's one of the cool benefits to this is truly a custom hood in the fact that it will fit perfect. And that's something unique again to this style, and the lack of backlight will improve your welds, which, speaking of that, if you have a lot of backlight in your shop or you do a lot of welding outdoors, you might want to invest into a rear, like not plastic, but some sort of like pleather or leather hood extension, so more or less kind of like a hoodie for your welding hood to block that backlight out, because your welds will improve. The better you can see, the better your welds will be. Now, other things that are kind of unique about this, besides what I've mentioned, is the weight. This thing probably weighs about, I'd say, half as much as like a typical Lincoln Viking 3350, Miller Digital Infinity. And even though like it has some weight to it, but it's so close to your face, and the way this balances is that your neck isn't going to be hurting you at the end of the day. And to make this even lighter, they even make this in a carbon fiber version. I don't know about this company, but other companies do, which is even lighter than this yet. And that is where, again, if you're leaning over pipe all day like this to weld stuff, taking a couple ounces off your neck can be a huge difference in how well you can, do that. And by how well, I mean how long and how many years you're going to be able to do that, because even like with hard hats, a lightweight hard hat can make a difference by the end of the day. The main drawback of this design, in my opinion, is its ability to handle general purpose welding fabrication. And what I mean by that is this is a very specific custom piece of kit per se. And when you use it for things it wasn't designed for, there's a lot of undesirable side effects. The main one being, if you're wearing this on your face and you're doing welding in a not normal pipe welding position, you are going to get a ton of potential UV rays through this that you probably wouldn't get with a normal hood, because this big open area on both sides of here, that old, look away and tack something, guess what? You're going to end up burning your neck a fair amount, which is exactly why most of the guys that wear these kind of hoods wear some sort of a neck sock or something to help block out UV light, and they often button up their collar all the way up. As should you regardless, because you don't want to get a sunburn on your neck. And as a matter of fact, I have one right now from being stupid and forgetting to button up my neck, but that's besides the point. So the UV exposure is higher on this. The other major issue is this works great for welding on pipe. Would I want to go in a confined space and run some 60-10 with this in weird positions? Probably not. And one of the main reasons for that is if any spark winds up coming up over this shield and it sits here, guess what? It's going to come right down to your skin and burn your skin. So again, this works great where you can control where the sparks are coming from, like when you're welding on pipe, where it's fairly predictable. But welding in some confined space or oddball stuff above your head and all that, expect to get some sparks that'll burn your head. Even if you're wearing a good welding cap like you should anyways, you're still likely going to suffer some burns from this, because again, compared to like a sugar scoop that's rounded here and on the sides, which would put all the sparks up over your dome or at least on top of your head, again, they could sneak their way in here and burn your face, so that's not good. Other drawbacks, obviously the viewing size is fairly limited. You're not going to see too many of these with anything other than a 2x4 lens in it. And you know what? That's okay, because again, for the intended use, it would work great. It is fairly uncommon to find these with a flip up lens where you have like a clear lens. They do make them, but it does add to the weight, it adds to the complexity, and a lot of the reasons why guys wear these to begin with. But hey, you can kind of do whatever you want as far as that's concerned. Beyond that, this is something that you may be interested in a home shop, but realistically is likely something that's just going to sit in pictures and on job sites, because the usefulness to the average person probably is pretty limited with this. Other than, like I said, the lack of backlight makes this an excellent hood to be welding outside. Probably the best vision you're going to get, simply because all that backlight doesn't obscure what you're looking at. As far as cost is concerned, these things can be had for $100 to $200, maybe $300 if you decide to go the super Gucci route and get carbon fiber, which again, that's kind of a little pricey for what it is. I mean, you can get a standard sugar scoop, a fiber metal one with a lens for probably sub $100. And for a lot of you guys, I think a sugar scoop would probably be far more useful for a general purpose hood than this. This is really a specialty piece of equipment, but I thought I would share it with you guys because this is something that a lot of you, like I said, probably have never seen. Don't know why it looks the way it does, but guess what? Now you know what they're used for, why they look the way they do, and maybe you might find one of these in your own home shop at some point, although again, pretty unlikely. So anyways, if you have any comments, questions, thoughts on this, if you yourself have used one of these, feel free to leave your thoughts on it in the comments. I like reading all of them, as do other people as well. So with that said, until next time. I don't know what to do with wood here. A lot different than metal. A lot harder to put it back if you screw it up.